Hey noobs, Mr. Frog here. When speaking of horror, many things may come to mind. For most people, they think of zombies, monsters, mutants, and maybe even clowns. In gaming more specifically, of course, nurses and pyramid head-shaped monsters may also come to mind. But have you ever considered all of the above mixed in with spicy H content? If so, you may be in luck, as today we will be taking a look at Tunnel Escape, a new horror rogue-lite developed by LZ and published by Psyche Studios. The game takes place in an apocalyptic world where there has been a large-scale outbreak of a zombie infection. While desperately trying to escape her plagued city, a survivor known as Beatrice comes across a strange laboratory. Inside, she discovers documentation detailing a possible vaccine to cure the infection. Thus begins a journey to explore deep within the lab, in which you will uncover several secrets related to both your past as well as the true nature of the experiments. It's a pretty typical zombie survival storyline, with admittedly few surprises, but the game does do a good job in effectively utilizing common horror tropes and paying tasteful homage to many other classic horror media, such as Resident Evil and Silent Hill. As for the gameplay, Tunnel Escape is a rogue-lite, turn-based RPG where you explore different sections of the research lab through random encounters. The majority of actions in the game can be performed with only the mouse, with the exception being occasional use of the arrow keys for QuickTime events. The two are never required at the same time though, thus making the game fully one-hand playable. Before choosing a section of the lab to explore, you will start in a main hub area where you can prepare for your journey by crafting or purchasing resources such as ammo, weapons, and healing items. Once you are ready and head out, you will begin to receive a series of random events. These events can range from combat battles to treasure chests, stat adjustment vending machines, story sections, and yes, a mysterious merchant. For the most part, you will have little control over which events take place and must do your best to prepare accordingly and respond to whatever the game throws at you. Occasionally though, your path will branch out in the different sections, where the game allows you to choose from a few different rooms. These choices allow you a little wiggle room to adjust as needed, such as selecting a merchant path if you are short on ammo and supplies, or simply a group of elite enemies if you are just looking to grind some XP. Upon completion of each room, you will increase progress on the exploration bar, with a boss battle occurring once fully completed. As you clear through the zones, you will encounter several different characters and learn more and more about the secrets within the lab. The game does a good job balancing its story and gameplay, sprinkling in lore segments occasionally as you progress. The non-combat events, such as QTEs, also help keep the game from feeling like a slog of constant turn-based combat. Treasure chests feel rewarding as well, as they often give new skills to unlock, which will be essential to succeeding in some of the more challenging fights. The game boasts over 100 different skills that can be unlocked, which is definitely an impressive amount, but it will require a bit of grinding if you hope to unlock them all. The game is definitely a bit on the grindy side, especially if you are playing on the harder difficulty mode, as you will need to replay through previous zones several times to level up and collect enough skills to keep up with the enemies. The normal difficulty is much more forgiving in this regard, and even if you happen to fall in combat, you will simply return back to the main hub area without any severe punishments. The game is only a rogue-lite after all, so there are no hard resets upon death, allowing you to continuously improve and strengthen your character after each run. As for the combat, it is a turn-based RPG with a few extra bells and whistles that will require a bit of additional strategy. Turn order is determined by an action bar at the top of the screen, with the player and enemies all moving at different speeds. Some enemies will take their turn faster than others, but the game does offer a system where you can interrupt the enemy if you perform certain actions when the enemy is on the red portion of the bar. Guns also have a decent amount of depth to them, with every gun having their own unique skills that can be only used when the gun is equipped. Different guns will excel at different tasks, whether that be the shotgun to do large-scale AoE attacks, or using the Magnum for significant single-target damage. In addition, Beatrice's damage will increase as the passion bar on the right side of the screen increases, which leads us on to the real content of this game, the H content. You can increase your passion bar by engaging with the game's H content. This unfortunately mostly involves letting the enemies take their turn and occasionally stunning you. While stunned by the enemy, you can either choose to let the scene progress to keep increasing your passion bar and thus more damage, or attempt to break free. On one side, this is a neat feature that leads to a decent balance between H content and gameplay, but on the other side, certain battles can feel like you are constantly stunned or just viewing the same H scene over and over again. Aside from that, the H content in Tunnel Escape is well animated and illustrated with a large variety in themes. I do want to warn though that many of the themes are far from vanilla. Considering that Tunnel Escape is a horror game after all, and most of your enemies will be monsters and mutants, a majority of the H content will heavily focus around those elements. The game does allow a bit of customization to disable some of the more niche aspects, but this will doubtfully be enough if you are more into vanilla content. Aside from the combat H content, there are a few scenes in some of the hidden rooms that you will come across where Beatrice can interact with some of the side characters. There are also a few QuickTime Event H minigames that will randomly appear upon exploration. There is a plentiful amount of H content in the game to see, so as long as you are okay with some of the game's more out there content, and how much you enjoy the main heroine Beatrice, as virtually all of the H content centers around her, you will likely be satisfied with what you receive here. Overall, Tunnel Escape is a solid roguelite turn-based RPG that offers an interesting combat system that requires careful strategy and tactics to succeed. It definitely has some flaws, but with its love letter style references, surprisingly great soundtrack, and fantastic main character design and H scenes, it offers an all-around enjoyable horror game experience. The game also strikes a decent balance between its H and gameplay content without leaning too much into either direction, and gives a little bit of something that everyone can enjoy. With that being said, Mr. Frog awards this game a strong Mr. Frog sip. Have you played this game? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And if you'd like to see more H-game content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure to check out the Mr. Frog stream over on Twitch. Later, noobs.